All right, so this we wanted to do separately because it really brings up a lot of the issues. Obviously, we kind of had a little fun at MAGA influencers or patriots expense. But of course, there's been a lot of conversation coming from the left about this meeting and what it means. And this is the question where it really came up. They asked Mamdani about this vote against socialism that had just happened in the Congress before this meeting.
And she shared.
What happened this President? I want to ask the mayor-elect about a House resolution just passed overwhelmingly to condemn socialism, including with 86 Democrats, all of House Dem leadership, and the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, despite his endorsement of you. What's your reaction to that?
I have to be honest with you, I focused very little on resolutions. Frankly, I've been focusing...
Socialism.
I understand. I think the focus is on the work at hand. I can tell you I am someone who is a democratic socialist. I've been very open about that. And I know there might be differences about ideology, but the place of agreement is the work that needs to be done to make New York City affordable. That's what I look forward to.
And I want to clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
It's okay. I don't mind.
It's okay. I don't mind. Yeah, just say yes. It's good.
Okay, so this vote.
Where'd you get that tie, by the way? I love that tie. So I should start wearing blue ties. I wear red ties. I need to change. I just start wearing blue ties.
I really like that outfit. What were you wearing? Maroon? Maroon? I'm going to talk to the White House tailor. I want to dress like that tomorrow. All right. So the vote that they're talking about, they had a resolution against socialism. So the Republicans voted against it unanimously. Honestly, I'm a little surprised that a slight majority of Democrats voted against the resolution. Slight majority, but a majority, 98 to 86. So Adam Parkhomenko put this up. The day after House Republicans vote to denounce socialism, Trump endorses Mamdani. I mean, more or less did. Republicans are all over the place, and Trump is very good at humiliating them. Also, Trump is more comfortable at waist height. Happy about that's what Bubba said. Yeah. But okay, so Talia Jane, there's a little more to the point of the segment. Democratic New York reps who voted yes on an outlandish resolution from fascist nutbag Elise Stefanik denouncing the horrors of socialism. And Fat Randy Fine presided over this vote, by the way. So one name you'll see there is Hakeem Jeffries. Another one is Bitchy Torres. No surprise there. So there's been a lot of questions about Zoran not backing Hakeem Jeffries' primary challenger. A lot of people are pointing to this as more evidence of why he should be backing a primary challenge. So let's just take a look at where he said this isn't the time.
Your election has created a lot of buzz. Now that the midterms are underway, that seems to be the focus, but your name is still being dragged into the midterms, right? Let me talk about Hakeem Jeffries for a moment, who now may face a challenge from Chi Osei, who is a member of the DSA. You said that there are local issues that Mr. Osei should be focused on, maybe should remain a councilman. Are you saying he should not run against Hakeem Jeffries?
No, I'm saying that I think the focus should be right here on New York City. I respect the work that Councilmember Osei has done in the council.
But what does that mean? Should he not run?
I think that right now is not the time to be engaging in that kind of a primary. I think the focus should be on delivering on this affordability agenda.
And what do you make of...
Okay. All right, so this is power to the people here. Hakeem Jeffries just led a group of 86 House Democrats to vote for a GOP resolution to condemn socialism. This is who Mamdani and AOC are trying to protect from a primary. How many more times do Democrats need to sell you out before you realize they are not our allies? Okay, and so then, just I think yesterday, the DSA voted not to recommend endorsing their working group, voted not to recommend endorsing Chi Osei's congressional run. Total of 1,205 DSA members voted, with 555 voting to recommend and 626 voting against. Now, according to what a lot of DSA members say, they were sketchy on him to begin with because it seemed a little opportunistic on his part to join the DSA. He joined pretty recently, seemingly specifically to get that endorsement. This is Zaid Jilani's take. Mamdani is shielding Jeffries from a primary, probably because Jeffries endorsed him like he asked. Classic
Obviously,
political move, and shows Mamdani is shrewd. You know, I've got another reason in addition. Who is this guy? Okay, so you want to argue that Hakeem Jeffries, who, yeah, I mean, he's about as bad as it gets. He's a ridiculous choice for the leader of the party in the House. He's terrible. He's like a black hole of charisma. He's just absolutely awful, both ideologically and just in terms of his political skills. But who's this guy? Who's this guy? Is this some fiery rebel? No, actually, he was a Kamala creator for Kamala.
Councilmember Chiosei, and 6 months ago, I was asked to be a delegate for Biden, and I declined. I knew for 100 reasons he wasn't the guy. But now I'm here not as a delegate, but as an official creator for Kamala, doing everything I can to help beat Trump. Trump and J.D. Vance will be nothing but destructive for our country. Abortion access, healthcare, climate, the economy, it's obvious that she's better than Trump. And yes, she'll be better on Palestine than Biden, and a world's better than Trump. She came out for a ceasefire while the Biden administration was refusing to. She snubbed Bibi Netanyahu's speech to
Oh, wow.
She literally promised that there would be absolutely no curtailing of weapons to Israel. She emphatically promised that.
Congress this summer. And now her DNC is hosting a first historical panel on Palestinian liberation and human rights. And we need to see so much more. And we've only made this progress because of pro-Palestinian activism and the uncommitted movement. And that shows that she can be moved. Biden wouldn't budge. Trump would take us backwards. Kamala is our only chance forward. A lot of us were unhappy with Joe Biden. But on January 20th, 2025, he won't be president anymore. Up to us is who will be.
All right, so let me get this straight. You think AOC is full of shit? Rightly so. You think Bernie is full of shit? Rightly so. You don't think this guy is full of shit? This guy's not full of shit? This is the guy that Mamdani should stick his neck out to back in a primary against Jeffries? If you would back this guy in a primary, who would you not back in a primary? Could you just run Hakeem Jeffries against Jeffries and you'd back them because they're running a primary against Jeffries? Why would you back this guy? And Keaton, you made a good point earlier. If he did back this guy, they'd be showing that video.
Right. If he had said, yeah, I want Chiosei to primary him, then they'd be showing this video, say this is the guy who backed, right?
Look at this.
Now,
this is who he gets behind. Let me just show that other video, and then we'll go to that. Okay, so I think Mamdani is creating a lot of consternation and a lot of confusion among the famously fractious circular firing squad legions of the left. No more so than amongst people who are perhaps Marxists, Leninists, Trotskyists, among those factions and their various splinter groups. There's a video that was shared out by Carsey Blanton that explains some of the history of united fronts and the fact that actually united fronts have historically been supported by Marxists.
He has it. A dozen socialist, communist, anarchist, labor groups, each with relatively only small differences. But they spend more energy fighting each other than fighting capitalism. Or now, fascists. The ruling class knows this. For 100 years they've worked to keep us divided. But Marxists had an answer. It's called the United Front. The United Front is a tactic in which two or more subjects, especially political parties, collaborate against a common enemy or for any agreed objective, without giving up their differences. The idea of a united front wasn't born in Moscow. It came from Germany. In 1920, after a right-wing coup was stopped by a general strike, communists like Clara Zetkin argued workers could only move forward if their parties acted together. In Stuttgart, metal workers passed a resolution for demands shared by all workers: cheaper food, taxing the rich, arming workers against fascist gangs. And in January 1921, the German Communist Party issued an open letter calling for all workers' parties to unite in action. Lenin backed it, and by the end of 1921, the Communist International adopted the United Front as official policy. And in history, we see both the cost of disunity and the power of unity. In Germany in the early 30s, communists and social democrats failed to unite. Hitler took power, and many communists warned that this failure opened the door to fascism. But in France in 1936, communists, socialists, and unions built a popular front. They won paid holidays, the 40-hour week, and stopped fascist coups. Our enemies knew the power of a united front, and they spent decades trying to break it. The CIA's Cultural Front, the Congress for Cultural Freedom, funded magazines, conferences, and intellectuals to isolate communists and communist ideas. Plus, the FBI's COINTELPRO openly targeted the Communist Party, Socialist Workers' Party, Black Panthers, and others, stating its purpose is to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize the activities. So essentially, the US poured money into dividing the left, elevating safe voices, and destroying revolutionary ones, which they still do today with the same tactics. And unity doesn't mean erasing our differences, it means acting together against a common enemy. As Clara Zetkin said in 1923, before this compelling historical necessity, all inhibiting and dividing political, trade union, religious, and ideological opinions must take a backseat. And the more we go to the masses, the more necessary it is for the Communist Party to be organizationally and ideologically unified. From all this, we can draw 3 actionable points. When danger is real, like with fascism or capitalist crisis, we need to prioritize the shared threat over internal splits. We need to build campaigns around clear demands that everyone agrees on. And of course, to maintain clarity of identity and principle.
Okay. Which goes on, unity in action doesn't mean erasing disagreements, but not letting them block collective struggle. Okay, so I think particularly this machine exacerbates this tendency because the algorithm prefers screaming and hot takes and conflict and division. It's really, I've described it this way before, it's a panopticon. And really the way that we maintain the prison is by attacking everybody over small differences, something that, the left has always been famous for. Going back to that Frederick Douglass quote, I'll join with anyone to do good. I don't see what's productive about tearing down a figure like Mamdani to the point that you can't work with him on things that you might agree with. Criticize him where you don't agree with him, just like you do with Thomas Massey or Marjorie Taylor Greene or any of these other figures that very often people on the left are more sympathetic to than figures like Mamdani. Where you don't agree with them, like with Jessica Tisch, certainly we don't agree with keeping her on as police commissioner. You say something about it, but what? So when he tries to open these public grocery stores, and you have Bill Ackman pouring billions of dollars into a campaign against him, what do you want to do as a leftist? You want to help Bill Ackman to make sure that doesn't happen? If what is really honestly motivating you is that you don't want anyone to make things better because you have an accelerationist agenda and you want to see societal collapse because you believe with no evidence that that's more likely to lead to communism than fascism, own it and make that argument. Don't argue that attacking this guy every time he blows his nose overall for his existence as a politician, not for a policy, that I agree, we do that, but just attacking him, giving him no credit for anything that he does. If that's what you're doing, you've completely lost the political purpose of helping people. At that point, your political project is purely about theory. And that's probably why we constantly, whenever we do a segment like this, we have a lot of people come at us and tell us what theory we have to read. Well, that's your fucking problem, man. That's your problem. You're so caught up in theory, you forgot who the theory is supposed to be for. I never have anybody come to us and send us an email telling us about the food drive that they organized. They never come at us and tell us about the labor action that they organized. They come at us and tell us about the book you got to read. Well, get your head out of the books and go walk through the housing projects, and maybe you will understand why somebody wanting to freeze the rent is important and significant if you pay fucking rent. And that is a good segue into what you wanted to get into.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll get into that right now, and then I'll say a couple other things. So, one of the things that was really interesting when you looked at the data of the vote in New York was that almost all of these, what do they call them, crosstabs, are blue for Mamdani, and then purple are the ones that Cuomo won. One of the only demographics that Cuomo actually beat Mamdani in was among people who live in subsidized or public housing. Now, that is kind of counterintuitive, right? You might not assume that, because why would the socialists be least popular with the poorest people who live in subsidized or public housing? Well, I said this when we covered the segment. The answer is quite
not to break your flow. Harlem, man. You had the most Cuomo support that I saw in the city was in Harlem, where I live.
Yeah. Well, especially when it comes to subsidizing public housing, the answer for why Cuomo won that vote is quite obvious. In fact, it had a lot to do with why Mamdani met with Donald Trump, because in the run-up to the vote, Donald Trump was threatening to essentially defund New York City if the communists won. And so people who are at the lowest rung of the economic ladder, who are relying on that federal funding, literally, to keep a roof over their head, thought, you know what, Mamdani is too risky, right? It's not that Mamdani's policies are worse than Andrew Cuomo, obviously. It's that Mamdani is too risky. He's going to make too much trouble. He's going to incur the wrath of this right-wing fascist president who's going to cut off funding to New York City as retaliation and in an act of sabotage against a quote-unquote communist mayor, right? And we're not going to have a roof over our head. And so as down and out as we are, as precarious as our situation is, we actually have too much to lose by taking a chance on Mamdani. So they voted for Andrew Cuomo. Now, if you're Zoran Mamdani and you win the mayorship, you're now responsible for these people. You now have to represent these people, which means it is your job to do everything you can to keep those federal dollars coming in so that these people don't go homeless. And so if that involves taking a meeting with Donald Trump and schmoozing him and charming him, if that's what it's going to take to keep this guy off your ass for a little while, even if it's only for a little while, because you never know. Donald Trump is a very unprincipled person. Right. He could turn on him in a few weeks. Sure. Right? You never really know.
Turn on him tomorrow.
Right. You could turn on him at any time. You have a responsibility to try your best to make sure that this doesn't happen. And so he had to take the meeting. He had to go. Why did Kim Jong-un take a meeting with Trump? Kim Jong-un didn't take a meeting with Donald Trump because he loves Donald Trump. He took a meeting to avoid a war with Donald Trump. That's why Kim Jong-un met with Donald Trump. And what did he do? He flattered him. He schmoozed him to avoid a war, right? Donald Trump cutting off federal funding to New York is an economic act of war against the poorest people of New York City. And if you represent them, you have a responsibility to try and make peace so that they are not the casualties of that economic war. It's really as simple as that. Like, his responsibility is to New York. And for people, the other thing people have to understand is New York City's at 8.5 million people. Most states in America don't have 8.5 million people in them. Being elected mayor of New York, that's like being elected governor of Virginia. Virginia has about 8.5 million people in it. So if you're elected governor of Virginia and the president's threatening to defund your state, no housing assistance, no healthcare assistance, no nothing, and you get elected, you don't think it's your responsibility to take a meeting to try and de-escalate for the protection of your people? Of course it is. And this speaks to something philosophically that I think the left is very uncomfortable dealing with because they're not used to having to deal with it. When you're not usually in power, you don't have anything to lose. You're not responsible for anything when you're not in power. You don't have anything to protect when you're not in power. But when you're in power, now you have people who are relying on you for protection. And if you did, as some may have wanted him to do, to either snub Donald Trump or antagonize Donald Trump right out of the gate, and Donald Trump defunded New York, and those people in subsidized or public housing got thrown out of their homes, went homeless, had to leave the city, what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to take that? Do you think the takeaway from that is that, well, this is why we have to join the leftist revolution to overthrow capitalism? Yeah. No, it's going to be the exact opposite. They're going to say, this is why we weren't really big on Mamdani. This is why we didn't really trust him. And this is why we will never trust the left with any power ever again, because they are more concerned with cosplay revolution than they are with keeping a roof over my head. That's the lesson that they glean if you go in and you chest pound. So on the question of should he have taken the meeting and should he have handled the meeting the way he did, obviously, yes, on both counts. To me, that's not even a question. You're the executive of a city you're the chief executive of a city with 8.5 million people in it. That is a huge responsibility. It is. As for all this other stuff, I mean, look, Hakeem Jeffries, yeah, he said it's not the right time to primary him. He said in Meet the Press that he would support Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker of the House if the Democrats take the House. Now, Hakeem Jeffries, as corporate a Democrat as they come, as in the pocket of AIPAC as they come, you can hate that. I do hate that. You know what? I also expect that. I feel like there's a dynamic here where we're kind of talking past each other a bit. Where like the people who are keen to just trash Mamdani every second of every day feel like somehow Russ and I, or people like Russ and myself, are putting him on a pedestal as if he's a revolutionary. No, he's not a revolutionary.
No.
There's a bit of a straw man dynamic going on here where people are saying, well, you got played. I got played how? How did I get played? What were my expectations for this guy? Saying I got played is implying that I thought this guy was going to come in and scream, Stalin is based, Trots are fags, and the Jews who feel unsafe can go fuck themselves. I never expected him to say that. Why would I expect him to say that? He's a politician. I expect a politician to return the favor that another politician does him. So when Hakeem Jeffries gives him a tacit endorsement ahead of the vote, I expected that Mamdani would return the favor and say, no, I support Leader Jeffries for the speakership. I expected him to do that. I don't like that he does that. That's why I wasn't out there telling people knock on doors for this guy, go to the match for this guy, volunteer.
That's why I didn't do it myself.
Right, because those kinds of devil's bargains are baked in the cake. We already knew that was going to happen. So who exactly is getting played here? It's an imaginary person that you have concocted in your mind as a convenient straw man so that you can make your argument about how nothing about this mayorship is a project worth investing in at all. There is no one, I won't say no one, because every charismatic politician has their cult followers, right?
Right.
So I'm sure he has his, just like Obama had his, just like Trump has his. But I don't encounter any of these people. Literally, I'm not bullshitting. I don't encounter anybody on X thinking that this guy is a revolutionary, that this guy is a threat to global capitalism or a threat to imperialism or a threat to Zionism. I think the sentiment that I see most prevalent is that this is a politician who was decidedly better than all of the people he was running against, and for all of his faults, is the biggest opportunity for the left to flex some power and some legitimacy that we've had in a very long time. To say we're getting played by him is to assume that we think he's Che Guevara. No, he's a politician. That's all he is.
The People's Front of Judea, splitters. We're the People's Front of Judea.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, it's very much that. Look, I mean, this is why I liked that video from the young lady that I shared. You can have your view. You can have your opinion. Like I would never say, well, you know what, man? You gotta become a Democrat. It's where the action. We're not.
No,
We're
of
not.
course.
Let your freak flag, hammer and sickle flag fly, man. Do whatever the fuck. But look at the right. They try to claim a win even when they lost. The left tries to claim a loss even when they won.
Right.
Fucking got a Muslim mayor elected to the most Zionist city in the country who emphatically refused to endorse the Zionist project, even when political calculation would have dictated he probably should fudge it or dance around about it the way a Chris Murphy would, kind of Chris Van Hollen, I'm thinking of. I believe in their right to exist, but this is wrong. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. Take the fucking win and criticize what you don't like. Nobody who is not severely psychologically and emotionally damaged wants to join a movement that's all about declaring its own impotence, ineffectiveness, and failure.
Please clap.